It's time for Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock. Thanks for tuning in. There's lots of news to discuss with John Ramdeen and Robin Black, who will stop by to chat about the next contender for the UFC Flyweight Championship. We've got a new strawweight bout signed for UFC 191, and the big news regarding Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor. The UFC issued a statement late Wednesday night that revealed Jose Aldo did not in fact break his rib. Rather, it was diagnosed as a bone bruise along with damage to the cartilage. At this moment, Aldo is proceeding ahead with the July 11th title fight against Conor McGregor at UFC 189. However, the UFC is hedging their bets and have made Chad Mendes being put on standby, which would lead to an interim title fight between McGregor and Mendes if Aldo were unable to fight at the pay-per-view in just over 2 weeks' time. Ariel Helwani reported on UFC Tonight that John Dodson has won the sweepstakes for the next UFC Flyweight Championship fight against Demetrius Johnson. No date or location have been announced for the fight. Dodson challenged Johnson for the title in January of 2013 and lost by unanimous decision, but has since won 3 straight fights and most recently defeated Zach Makovsky by unanimous decision at UFC 187 in May. And a strawweight bout has been added for the UFC 191 pay-per-view on Saturday, September the 5th in Las Vegas with Paige VanZant and Alex Chambers. VanZant announced the fight on her Twitter account following an initial report from MMAsucka.com. VanZant is 2-0 thus far in her UFC tenure with wins over Kylan Curran and Felice Herrig, while Chambers is coming off her own win over Curran last month in Australia. This Saturday night, we will be presenting our 1-hour preview show at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, heading into the undercard of the Machida Romero card from Hollywood, Florida, with 4 fights coming your way exclusively in Canada on Fight Network at 8 p.m. Eastern. Here we are with John Ramdeen and Robin Black, and the fight is tentatively on. Aldo and McGregor, it's not a broken rib. It's a bone bruise, and this fight is going to happen. Is this crazy?
It's a perfect situation for the UFC because Jose Aldo...
Is it a perfect situation for Jose Aldo?
No, it's not a perfect situation, but again, you talk to many fighters, especially champions. This is the things you have to deal with when you're at the top of the mountain. You know, Dana White can criticize AKA for pushing too hard. Oh, you know, these guys train too hard. Cain Velasquez was the champion, Daniel Cormier is the champion, and Luke Rockhold's getting his shot at the 185-pound championship. So clearly you have to push yourself. Jose Aldo, Robin and I just called one of his fights from Pancrase back in the day in 2007. Jose Aldo was so evolved. He has tools that we haven't even seen yet inside of the cage, and we're looking at one of the all-time greats. So if Jose Aldo has this injury, say he loses the fight, Conor McGregor becomes the champion. Who will get that first rematch? I'm sure it will be Jose Aldo. And I
think it should be. I think there's no way to anticipate a 100% Jose Aldo. It's absolutely impossible.
This is perfect for that.
Yeah, listen, you don't have to build tinfoil hats right at this second, but things are not as they appear. On late Monday night or so, we hear he may have a broken rib, and we'll hear about it on Thursday. X-rays take about 6 minutes, and it takes about 10 minutes for an expert to read one.
But you need a plan.
Yeah.
So, we're going to find out what happens.
Well, exactly. So for 2 days, it wasn't, well, we don't know. It was, well, we have to talk to him. He says he's injured. Can he make weight? What other support does he need? Does he need a doctor that can help him with, any other kind of issues? Is he going to be able to make weight without taking diuretics? All of these questions. And is he going, well, you know what, Dana? This bruise is hurting. The cartilage is hurting. Hurts to breathe. I don't know if I'm making weight. I don't know. Would another $500,000 help? No. $750,000. A lot went on. Lots. Stuff we'll never know about. What does matter in the end is we are going to see this fight. If you're Conor McGregor, if you're his fans, if you're his team, he's looking at it like there's a built-in excuse already for Aldo, something he's never dealt with before. Put your money on Conor McGregor if this fight happens.
Yeah, I think you have to, I'm not the conspiracy theorist that Robin is, but at the same time, they're saying this is contingent on him being cleared to fight. When Jose Aldo is somebody that is headlining a card that has a $7 million gate, there's different rules for stars, and there's different influencers that if this was Cody McKenzie on an undercard, I don't think it would be, I pretty much am very sure that they would likely not be clearing a guy to fight. I think it becomes very different when you're talking about a headliner. You're talking about all of the people that are traveling over here from Ireland, other countries. This is a big card, and this is the biggest fight of the year.
But like Robin said, Jose Aldo is one of these guys like John Jones where they believe that, they should be treated like the stars of other sports organizations. And that's why John Jones was more than happy to have a show canceled. If he's not 100% or he's not prepared for a specific opponent, I can see why we'd pull pull out. Same with Jose Aldo. It's like, you know what? I have an injury. Chances are I'm not going to be able to be my best Jose Aldo in this scenario. And then the UFC says, okay, that makes sense. But like
guaranteed rematch.
money, which he said, guaranteed rematch, all these different things. So Jose Aldo, I'm sure, would stack the deck in his favor.
What do you do if you're Chad Mendes? Because he's been thrust into this position. How do you get ready for 5 rounds in 2 weeks' time like this? What are you doing, Robin, if you're Chad Mendes?
I think if you're Chad Mendes, you go back to being a high school and college wrestler and you just get on the grind. If you're mentally strong enough, you look at it like, hey, man, I'm not the flashiest guy in the world. I'm not the guy who is going to be featured in these situations. So if and when I get a spot, I have to be so mentally ready to go in and destroy and put myself on the top of everybody's list, wear the belt, and then dictate. Like Chris Weidman did.
Is it possible for a guy like Chad Mendes or Frankie Edgar to always be in the elite shape just in case one of these opportunities comes around?
They can always be 7 out of 10. It's hard. You can't. No athlete can stay 9 out of 10, 11 and a half months a year. Their bodies will break down. They'll burn out. There's all kinds of physiological issues that'll happen, but they can stay 7.5 out of 10. And for Chad Mendes is 7.5 out of 10 that he can take to 8.25 in 2 weeks is pretty badass.
We also should mention the fact that it looks like John Dodson, he will in fact get the next flyweight title fight against Demetrius Johnson. Where do you see this one going? Because I think there was a real lesson to be learned this past weekend by putting Joanna Jędrzejczyk on Fight Pass and Fight Network here in Canada. And there was none of that debate about whether that can headline a pay-per-view, because honestly, that fight could not have. And I don't think this one can headline a pay-per-view. Sure. Does this belong on a Fox or a big free card or a Fight Pass?
Yeah, that's where you need to do it, because I think you have to expose Demetrius Johnson to the masses. The commentators have to explain how brilliant of a fighter this guy is because of this and that. And I think you'll start to see a following. But if they want to put it on Fight Pass, we will be more than happy to be the home of Demetrius Johnson live.
Damn, Skippy. Yeah. And or you put him underneath another huge fight. Yeah. I mean, you could have put him under McGregor.
With someone.
Yeah,
so he's not the main event.
Like Ronda Rousey was at the beginning, and I mean, she still is.
He's the best fighter in the world right now.
All right. He is Robin Black, John Ramdeen. I'm John Pollock. Stay tuned. More Fight News Now Extra is coming up.